Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. Eramis, Kell of the House of Salvation, once Shipstealer, Scourge of the Reef. I don't know what I expected out of Eramis' story, but I did expect there to be something in this last season of the year, and yet, except for the one lore tab that we're about to touch on, Eramis is conspicuously absent. The Shipstealer went from being one of the Witness's top lieutenants within the Sol Theatre to a deserter who had lost her cause and her sense of purpose. Today, we're going to see what Eramis is doing now in the story, but we're also going to figure out what her actions mean for the wider system, the wider universe of Destiny, and the future of the Eliksni. But first, a word from friends of the channel, Starforge. If you're looking for a great gaming PC that's custom built and built for you so you don't have to run through the hassle of building it yourself, look no further. Their custom-built PCs are curated by PC enthusiasts to give you a range of great machines at great price points. You can go with one of their cheaper machines like the Horizon 2 Core if you're on a budget, or if you're looking to splash out on the latest GPUs and other hardware, look no further than the Voyager 2 series rigs within their Creator line. All of this comes with a white glove service and a 2-year parts and labor warranty, so you know you're getting a great deal no matter what rig you buy. Go ahead and check out Starforge for your next gaming rig and get a discount when you use my link in the description. Thanks again to Starforge for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. A quick recap for those that missed the story prior to this moment. Eramis was a major threat to the Last City and the Coalition forces generally. This time last year, during the season of the Seraph, she had set her sights on control of the Warmind's array of weapons and was planning on using them to strike down the Traveler. She nearly succeeded in doing this. It's worth remembering that as we see this all play out in that cutscene where Rasputin sacrifices himself, Eramis is approaching a precipice, and it represents a line that she is crossing quite definitively. It's a moment that defines her in her story. Eramis had done many things in her time since the Whirlwind that might have been unthinkable to her from the time prior. She turned her back on the Traveler, embraced the power of the darkness, and became a leading commander of the Witness, but in this moment, Eramis was faced with the choice of striking down and potentially killing her old god, or changing her heart and returning to the light. As many of us know, Eramis chose to strike at her god and activated Rasputin's weapons. She turned the key, and as she did so, she uttered the words, "For Rhys." In this moment, perhaps she believed that she was avenging her homeworld and found justice at last for all those that the Traveler had abandoned. She's also willingly embraced her role in the downfall of the Traveler and has truly turned on it. There is, in a certain sense, no going back from this moment, and even if we certainly did end up forgiving Eramis to a certain extent, allowing her to walk away a second time from Mithrax, there was definitely still a moment at which we could sit there and rightly say that this will forever tarnish her. Even if it is something that we all forgive, it will be this indelible mark. Having willingly embraced her role in this downfall is something she will have to live with forever. Now again, thanks to the sacrifice of the Warmind Rasputin, Eramis's convictions and her actions in this moment were unrewarded. Rasputin's death and the purging of all the Warmind's code led to the moment where the Warsats were left broken and the Traveler was unharmed. It's also worth remembering that there is the theory that Rasputin's sacrifice in this moment is indeed what allowed the Traveler to stay. There is a certain degree to which the old line of devotion inspires bravery, which leads to sacrifice, which leads to death, can be applied here, and that might be the qualifying moment which allowed the Traveler to stay. However, as Eramis realizes that all her hopes and aspirations were dashed, you might have expected fury or rage from her, but instead, as she sees the Traveler just floating there above Earth, and realizing that it wasn't leaving humanity, Eramis is almost shaken. Her first utterance isn't a curse or a cry of rage, it's a question. Why? Why does it not flee? I think in this moment, everything changed for Eramis. Her whole life since the Whirlwind had led up to this climactic moment where she had the chance to avenge the suffering of her people, and she was denied that chance even though she tried. Facing this, and perhaps understanding a little bit more of the doubt that would have been instilled in her with time thanks to Mithrax and Ido, maybe Eramis was left in a place where her convictions were starting to become a bit shaky, and at that point she teetered even further towards the notion of defection, something that must have run through her mind due to the way that the Eliksni forces that were loyal to her were being transformed into Scorn and Wrathborn at the hands of the Witness and Zivor Arath. Inevitably, this led to Eramis's next major action in the narrative. As we were attempting to rescue prisoners from the Shadow Legion's prison camps in the EDZ, we saw that Mithrax and Amanda were caught in a trap. Amanda was killed in this interaction, and Mithrax might have been as well, were it not for Eramis. In the moments prior to the rescue attempt, she tried to alert the team to the fact that this was indeed a trap that had been laid specifically for them. She also used her own stasis powers to prevent an explosion from consuming Mithrax. In a strange way, perhaps this was partly a defection and partly a way of evening the score. After all, Mithrax had her dead to rights at the end of the Season of the Plunder, and it's only thanks to Eido convincing him to spare her that Eramis even lives to tell this tale. In a strange way, maybe this was just her returning the favor. In another way, this defection feels a lot more obvious, especially due to the fact that she had given prior warning. Now, long after the Witness has disappeared into the Pale Heart, long after her intervention to save Mithrax, Eramis can be seen in the lore of the Season of the Wish, changing course once again. This time, perhaps for good. Eramis anchored her ketch on the shadowed side of an asteroid and cut the engines. She gazed out the viewport at a wrecked House of Wolves ketch lying half buried under the rubble of the tangled shore. Her reverie was broken by Kylaxis, her lieutenant. "Eramis Kell, your plan is working," the Vandal chittered gleefully. "A reef patrol is inbound, sweeping for nests. If we board them quickly, we can take the ship intact." "No," Eramis replied, still gazing out the viewport. "Let them pass." "It's a Corsair patrol vessel," Kylaxis insisted, his chitters staccato with frustration. "Even as scrap it's worth—" "Let them pass," Eramis thundered, whirling to face the Vandal. "The time of the ship stealer has gone. All that matters now," Eramis said, "is where we are when the end arrives." The Kell of Darkness activated her transmat, leaving a frustrated Kylaxis alone on the bridge. Eramis rematerialized in the wrecked House of Wolves ketch. The walls of the ship were pitted by bullet holes and desiccated hive growths. Only Hive and Lightbearers had dared to enter since it was shot down during the Reef Wars. She shook her head. What a waste. She stepped over Thrall and Acolyte corpses, picking her way carefully to the ship's navigation. Once inside, she opened an access panel and pulled out a centuries-old data core. She sifted through the archives until she found it. A detailed map of Reese, the Eliksni homeworld. It was the same map that Eramis's mate, Arthris, had followed out of Sol. It even included the habitable zones she'd tabbed as potential landing sites. By now, Arthris might be Kell of her own settlement, living happily alongside their grown hatchlings. Or they might all be long dead. In truth, Eramis hadn't wondered at either possibility for decades. But ever since she saw the Witness disappear into its portal, Eramis could think of little else. All her prior aspirations were made suddenly small. Eliksni solidarity, revenge against the Traveler, enmity with the humans. They were all irrelevant. If a second whirlwind was her fate, Eramis would suffer it as she had the first, with Arthris by her side. It appears that here, at the end of all things, Eramis has realized that nothing else really mattered. Raiding awoken vessels, achieving her vengeance against the Traveler, crushing the remnants of humanity. All of these were far less important than the simplest of things that binds us all together in one way or another. Family. Eramis's mate, Arthris, had been in her thoughts for a long time. Back when both of them had been on Reese, they would have lived in their community and raised their hatchlings in the old Eliksni way. Together, communally, with everyone caring for each other's needs. It appears now that Eramis simply wants that once again. And that's not surprising, because at the heart of it all, everything she's done up to this point has been for the sake of her people, but more acutely, for the sake of Arthas. Now, simply Eramis wants to find her again, and be at her side before the world ends. The all-consuming hate that filled her before isn't enough on its own to provide a purpose. The Kell of Salvation has long grown tired of it. It seems that no matter whether her frustrated crew follows her or not, she will now be engaging in a search for the person that gave any of her exploits meaning. What this means for the system is complicated. Eramis was in herself an exceptionally powerful figure, and she represented one of the few Eliksni that might be able to unify her people and rally them to her cause. In the days leading up to the Beyond Light expansion, she proved this well with her achievements on Europa. The creation of an Eliksni-style city and military-industrial complex was in itself an achievement that spoke to her convictions and her ability to be an effective leader. The wayward Eliksni people finally had a place they could call home in Reese Reborn, finally had somewhere that was briefly stable. And to a people that has been long lost out in the darkness without a planet to really call their home, that has to mean something. Her departure from the system has created the same power vacuum that once existed before, when she was frozen in stasis and her lieutenants were killed by Guardians. The remnants of the House of Salvation are once again left leaderless. In such circumstances, given enough time, it's likely that they'll splinter and fold into their own factions once again. Any Eliksni who finds themselves in command of a Ketch might begin to plot their own independent futures now, as would-be Kells or warlords of some other nature. Whilst it's not impossible that a leader might emerge to keep a portion of the House of Salvation together, I think it's much more likely that we'll be looking at the House slowly folding back into pirate activity, and as a result, many of them will shed the banner of the House of Salvation altogether. Thus, the nebulous and disparate and truly unaligned House of Dusk will grow yet again, with yet more followers of that banner without a Kell, without much purpose other than survival. But it's possible that the House of Light might be able to pick up some stragglers here and there, especially those who have seen their comrades converted by the Witness under Eramis's command. If Mithrax is able to create any further legitimacy, this might be a point at which he is able to capitalize on Eramis's departure. He is, as best we know, the last major Kell who remains within the system. There may be remnants of various houses still out there, but right now, Mithrax, as a member of the Coalition, as an Eliksni who has been able to set up a permanent residence for his people on Earth, and as one who is offering a different life from the harshness that is currently present throughout the other houses, he stands a decent chance of being able to capitalize on this moment. As for Eramis herself, there is a wild card that she brings with her no matter where she goes and no matter who she finds, and that is the power of stasis that she still controls. An Eliksni with the status of a Kell returning to a long-lost and disparate colony with the powers of darkness literally in their hands is a volatile situation, to put it lightly. It may depend on the way that Eramis approaches the colony, it may depend on the way the colony perceives her. Not all the Eliksni might have abandoned the Traveler's ways or faith in it, much like the House of Light. Some might be even more fanatical in their hatred of the Traveler than Eramis was. This is also a possibility. It's impossible to know what kind of greeting she'll receive when she arrives. Regardless, if she does bring stasis with her, she'll be bringing a power that has incredible ramifications for corruption and control into the midst of a new Eliksni people. If she finds them, that is. The Eliksni are remarkable creatures, but they are certainly not paracausal. If Eramis wanted to, she could easily usurp the control of the colony and become Kell there in swift fashion. Equally, if the Eliksni she finds are still loyal to the Traveler and the Light, it would be significant stigma against Eramis to see her wielding stasis, and she might be cast out before she even arrives. I also don't know if she would necessarily take the route of being an aggressor, especially if Arthas is amongst the numbers of those that she finds. I fear that even with Eramis potentially carving her own path back to her mate, one way or another, there is pain waiting for her, and that her pain and her story is not quite over. Only time will tell. If she does return to Reese, who knows what she'll make of that ruined place? Who knows if there's anything left? But that's all from me for now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like. And if you have any more thoughts of your own, go ahead and leave them down below in the comments section. Doing what you can to assist the algorithm in deciding that it does indeed want to help the channel out would most certainly be appreciated as well. But as per usual, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Rodacia Arastra. I'll see you Starside.